I call upon Shiraz Mukherjee, my brother, to just formally introduce Prahlad.
Good evening, friends, dignitaries, etc. My claim to fame here is I'm his brother. And I authored a book. If you wish, you can grab a copy outside. Now, when I was tasked with the responsibility of getting Prahlad here on time. You know, so I went there and I was driving with him in the car, and I said, Prahlad, we're going to run a couple of commercials that you've made, and a few of them were in the editing stages I had just landed in Mumbai. And I said, I'm going to introduce. I said, don't do that. That's going to be a blot in my career. I said, sir, I want to say that I started my career with you. He said, don't do that. That's going to be a blot in my career. So, you know, what can you say about the man? I mean, he's the best thing that, he used to take our pants down, pants off, if he made a mistake. But if, because of fear of making a mistake, we couldn't decide, then he used to sack us. And that's how we all became leaders in our own way. Prahlad cannot be explained. Only person who can introduce Prahlad is Prahlad himself. Please come on stage, sir. Okay, I'm going to, I've compiled a few, made a little capsule of some of the old films that he's made, some of his iconic films. So you're going to, these things will ring a tune in your minds. A couple of them were in the editing stage just when I had come to Bombay 20 years back. So.
ये बुलेट मेरी जान मंजिलों का निशान, ये बुलेट मेरी जान मंजिलों का निशान। जिंदगी एक सफर चलना शामो सहर, ओ इसकी रफ्तार की बात है और ही। ये बुलेट मेरी जान मंजिलों का निशान। लंबी राहों पे ये क्या गज़ब की चले, रास्ते तय करे फासले तय करे। ये बुलेट मेरी जान मंजिलों का निशान, ये बुलेट मेरी जान मंजिलों का निशान।
उमड़ घुमड़ कर जीरा गरजे, दिल ये डोले, झूम के बोले तारे छूले। प्यास बड़ी है और भी बढ़ ले, अरे खोल के बंधन तोड़ के ताले, ये दिल मांगे मोर।
सचिन, ये दिल मांगे मोर।
Aha!
यही है right choice, baby.
Hi, I'm your new neighbor. Can I have a Leher Pepsi?
Yeah, sure. Yes! Oops. और कुछ चलेगा?
नहीं, पेप्सी नहीं है तो।
ना, no problem.
You okay in there?
ये लहर पेप्सी.
That must be Sanju.
संजू?
Hi, I'm Sanjana. Got another Pepsi?
Sure.
मस्ती का कोटा भर गया, रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड तो घर गया। तू भी चल बोले अकल, पर ये दिल ना माने, ये दिल मांगे मोर। अभी पहुंच रहा हूं शूटिंग पे। क्या है? मैं अभी आया। देखा, हर जगह एसी साथ लेकर चलना थोड़ा मुश्किल है, इसलिए हमेशा मैं अपने साथ रखता हूँ हिमानी नवरत्न कूल टैल्क। इसके आयुर्वेदिक गुण रखे कूल और फ्रेश सारा दिन। साधारण टैल्क में ये बात कहा, नवरत्न कूल टैल्क दुनिया का सबसे छोटा एसी, ठंडा ठंडा कूल कूल। Come on India! Come on India, दिखा दो। Come on India, दिखा दो। Come on, हिला दो। दुनिया को हिला दो, हिला दो। थोड़ा सा दिल, थोड़ा सा will ले आओ। थोड़ा सा दिल, थोड़ा सा will। Come on India.
Will's Indian team share the magic.
स्वस्थ खाओ, तन मन जगाओ।
You know, in my profession, bullshit and myth all go hand in hand. But there's one truth, and that is that you are just as good as your last commercial. So it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you might do. What matters is what you've done the last thing. And that is how you're judged, and that is how your whole future base is based not on the volume of work that you've done and which you can sit on with piles, but the fact that your last commercial might be a turkey and that's your swan song. So with each successful commercial, shall we say, the pressure builds because the next one can't be just as good. It has to be better. And you're constantly competing against yourself. And to the first time that I really realized that competition isn't against your peers and maybe mediocrity. So if you are better than most, you're still mediocre. Because only in my profession, which is a filmmaker, you know what you wanted to start off with in your mind. And sometimes it remains in the mind because what you eventually end up with is nothing like what you started off with. So everybody else might look at what you've actually delivered and say, wow, that's great, you're a genius. But you know it's all bullshit. So eventually you have to live with yourself. And your only competition, if you really think about it, is yourself. Because your mind is perfect, usually, in terms of visualizing the way you want your life to be, the way you want to execute a job, the way you want to court a woman, the way you want to give a speech, and it never pans out exactly that way. Because it's left in your mind. And only you know eventually, however much the world thinks that you've done well or not done well, is that only you know what is atidal ka bhav. So when you live with that knowledge that your only real competition is yourself and not the peers around you, you tend to become a lot more compassionate and less cutthroat than on average levels. My profession is extremely cutthroat. I mean, people looking at it from the outside think that by God they'll sell their mothers, you know. But the fact is that when you reach a certain stage of momentum and you realize that you are never going to be as perfect as your mind, and that you accept that admittance of failure every single time, and that you want to get better with every new job because you're going to try and get as close to what you started off with by visualizing it, to come to it. It means it requires tremendous amount of leadership because you can't do it yourself. There's a whole team involved. There are people involved whose speciality it is to do certain kinds of disciplines. Your cameraman is a cameraman. You can't replace him with yourself. Your editor is your editor. Your music director is your music director. Your talent is your talent. They're supposed to act the way you want them to act. Now, the point is that if you can't mold this entire completely, desperately different kinds of talent and egos into one single vision, which is yours, because you're the director and you are at the helm, then you have failed. Because every one of them in their own right is a star. And you're no bigger or smaller than they are. It's just that you have to carry them with the sheer inspiration of your vision and your uncompromising single most important quality to say, it's this way and not this way or this way. And the next time we do it, we'll do it your way. But this time we'll do it my way. And if you can't mold that team into believing that you know what you're doing and that they are willing to take leave of their own sensibilities and follow yours, you'll never succeed. So to take 15, 20 professionals who have reached whatever level they have much earlier than you have, because in their own rights, the cameraman is much senior to you, your music director is probably much senior to you, is that when they sit down and listen to you and believe that you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about, then you have a team. And when you have a team, then they're all welded into one single vision. And which is why you've come the closest to what is in your mind. You never reach that. I mean, 2 and 2 at best will be 22. But you always reach 18, 19, 20. Never 22. And anybody who says 2 and 2 is 4 is mediocre. So, if you can live with mediocrity because you can't contribute anything more to it than just a simple math problem, then I think they're the happiest people in the world because they accept their mediocrity. And therefore there is no challenge and there's no pressure. And they're perfectly okay living just below the firing line because they never take a decision. They never get up to say yes when everybody else is saying no. And they never agree to disagree. So they're what we call the herd. And they're very okay because so far in this world, and to most of us here, life has been relatively simple. You either stick your neck out and get it chopped off, or you do great things, or you duck and get promoted according to your lifespan. So if you're okay with that, then there is never a problem because you know exactly where you're going to be 5 years from now. And you're in the groove, so you're fine. And you have no great expectations, you have no great desire to take risks, you have no great desire to lead people, you have no great desire to trample new ground. You're 2 and 2 is equal to 4, you're mediocre. Okay, fine, I'm mediocre, I'm safe. So as long as you think you're safe, you're fine. In today's world, you're no longer safe. Because if you as a person who is a part of a company or a team refuses to stick his neck out and give vent to his opinion or his decision and sort of wants a decision made with lots of people discussing it, then it becomes the minutes of a meeting. It doesn't become leadership. So, if you don't take the opportunity to make a decision by the scruff of its neck and right or wrong, go with it. Because always remember one thing about decision making. How big the bogey is, as far as people are concerned, there's only one goalpost. And whether you do it backwards, forwards, from the right wing, left wing, you have to kick the ball in the goal. Now, decisions of different kinds take different routes. You can do it by yourself, or you can do it with the hand of God, like Maradona did. Or you can pass to the right wing, or you can pass to the right wing. But eventually, the idea is to kick the ball into the goal. Not making a decision is sitting there dribbling with yourself until somebody comes and takes the ball away. So, not making decisions is the stamp of a non-leader. Making decisions also opens you up for criticism. Because the moment you say yes to something and not no, it becomes your baby. It becomes your responsibility, and everybody is looking at you, slightly away from you, however junior or senior you might be in the pecking order, and saying, "Acha bachchu, dekhte kya karta hai tu?" To haan to bol diya. Because you haven't consulted us. I'm your senior, you should have passed this on to me. The file should have gone to me, then I would have gone further up, and finally the boss would have said, "Let's have a meeting." And by that time, the decision is over, because the opportunity, the window of opportunity in today's world is over. It takes 5 seconds for you to miss that window of opportunity. It's like being a slip fielder. If you start thinking where the ball is going and trying to follow the ball, you're dead. If you don't know by the way the batsman is shaping to know where the ball is going to be, it's called anticipation. And you can only catch a ball in the slips by already committing yourself before the batsman actually touches the ball. And that comes with not only with experience, it comes with courage. So if you notice in the World Cup now that's going on, you'll find that every penalty that is taken, the goalkeeper has committed himself long before the ball is kicked. So usually he goes in the wrong direction. Why would he go in the wrong direction if he had waited for the ball to be kicked? It's just that he would be just a little too late. Now, in today's business climate and of decision making and of leadership, the speed in which your windows of opportunity pass you by are so rapid that if you do not take the decision when it's given to you on a plate, you miss the boat. And because of that, as an employee, as a leader, as whatever you might be in, whatever cog that you might be in, whatever machine, the fact is the machine collapses. The machine collapses because other machines overtake you. And I've found more than often that great companies, not small chota mota baniye ki dukans, I'm talking about Kodak, I'm talking about Ericsson, I'm talking about Nokia, I'm talking about companies of that kind who've crashed with thunderous repercussions to the economic world. Like when that company collapsed in America, it took half the world with it. Not Arthur Andersen, the Lehman Brothers. And Lehman Brothers t-shirts became collector's pieces because that's all that they had to sell on the footpath if they didn't jump out of the window in the meantime. So Lehman Brothers crashed because it was one single American company. It took half the world's economy with it. It was amazing how it dominoed everybody. So that today is your situation. You take the call or retire, back off, let the younger people do it. So if you're too scared to take the call, if you think that you have too much to lose, you've lost it anyway. So it's no longer left in your hand to say, should I or shouldn't I? The only choices that you have is, I will or I won't, and if I don't, I step out, let a younger man take the decision because he has long way to go and he'll go much further than you will because he's taken your decision from you. So what is it that makes a leader take decisions? Because the leader knows that making a decision, right or wrong, is better than not making a decision. Because having committed yourself to a decision, you know there's only one goalpost. Now, whichever way you do it, you do it. You take your team with you, you do it on your own, or you don't take your team with you. If you're not a good leader, your team doesn't believe in you, they won't follow you. And they won't cooperate with you. So you'll inevitably fail. But you can't turn on and use decision making like a board meeting where everybody uses cheap toilet paper, multiple folded so your hands don't get dirty. So because when the shit hits the fan, everybody's covered. So who are you to blame? So the whole company goes down. And it's happened so often in the last 10 years or 15 years of the economic scenario that it's not an accident. It is suicide. It was willful suicide because they procrastinated, and a whole lot of people who are above 50 years old sat there holding hands and hoping for some inspiration. Because they refused to share the responsibility of decision making with younger people. Now, in my organization, which is a very small organization, we trained our people from the beginning to accept the responsibility of a decision. Because if we didn't train them to make decisions at a very early age, right or wrong, they would take the company with them and they became in charge of it. So if young people are not trained to be and rewarded for making decisions at a very early age, they'll take the company with them. So it's no longer can we not, should we, shouldn't we. There's no argument about this. The pace of change of technology in the introduction of anything today, whether it's shipping, whether it's advertising, whether it's management, whether it's manufacturing, you name it, the biggest game changer is technology. And the problem with technology is that the older you are, the more difficult it is for you to cope with it. Especially when it changes so rapidly that by the time you get the hang of what you're doing, it's already gone obsolete. So you have to get on to the next model. So who is it that actually is familiar with technology? It's the kids who've grown up with it. So if you look at your children, you'll find that they're far better with technology than you are. So what is the role that we have to play in a young world? As the youngest country in the world, it's going to remain so for the next 40 years. And most, people today in this country, 60% of this country is below the age of 35, and almost 50% is below the age of 25. They are going to be a new consumers, they are going to be their children. If you have conflict in the house with your children and you do not agree with the way they live or want to live, and you constantly keep throwing at them, "Hamare zamane mein aisa nahi hota tha," then you are screwed in the market. Because they are your consumers. So the fact is that you've been given a chance to try and understand a 19-year-old right in your doorstep by having a dialogue with him instead of saying my way or the highway. Because the moment you say my way or the highway, start looking for a hill station where you can retire to. Because they're the ones who are going to run the companies in the future. And they're the ones who are far more savvy than you are. Now, where do you come in? Where you're better at it than they are. When you tell them that I want an original solution to a difficult problem, they'll not give you one. They'll give you 20. They're so prolific. Their minds are so fertile. The point is that it's like vomit. 19 out of the 20 ideas are vomit. One out of them is a gem. It takes hindsight and experience of leadership to be able to recognize that one idea. So what happens? The best ideas in any company, even in shipping, the best innovations in shipping, you'll find in the dustbin. Why will you find them in the dustbin? Because there are no my-baps for the idea. And when you are at a very junior level, nobody takes you seriously. So all these big honchos with grey hair, I think, and tremendous feeties on their shoulders, and they sit around and like a court order and look at this chap, this young chap who's come up with this idea and this offering, and turns and says, "Oh, young man, you think you know it all, do you? Little fucker," is what you're thinking, not saying,
This is one from the list.
Yeah. So, you start with the negative. You started thinking that this 22-year-old is teaching me how to suck eggs. Sorry, your eggs have changed. The eggs that you sucked were very different from the eggs that they're sucking. So if you do not actually include him into the fact and try and understand where he's coming from, you won't be able to pick the nuggets out of the shit. So therefore you won't be able to run with it. You need a senior person to protect a great innovation idea. Because the youngsters can't do it. They can't protect it. They don't have the weightage. And they don't have the salary bar. So you need a partnership between an older generation person and a young generation person. They're equals. They're not older and younger. They're not senior partners and junior partners. They're equals. And with as equality, you will be able to take on anybody in the world. Because when you have a young man at your side who's thinking and you're thinking on the same wavelength as he is, he teaches you to be young. You're only teaching him a discipline. Nobody can teach you how to be young except a young man. And if you can't think young today, you're dead. So if you can't relate to the youngsters in your own home, you're dead. It's a writing on the wall. So it's imperative that when you sit on the dining table, it isn't started off with acrimony by asking him, why are you looking so scruffy? That's the way he is. And that's the way he's most comfortable. Just ask him how his mind is thinking when he's not smoking pot. And if he is smoking pot, ask him whether he share it with you. Maybe you'll be on the same wavelength. So, that is one aspect of decision making which makes a leader. The other aspect is, what value do you add to whatever you do? How do you calculate value? When you turn around and say 2 and 2 is equal to 4, and you say it's mediocre, but it's accurate. Anything that you add to the job more than 4 is the value that you bring to the table. So when you cannot calculate value in advance, you can't anticipate value. You can only calculate value when it's delivered. So when you deliver a job, and it's far greater than what the brief was, and you say, okay, this guy gets on 22, he gets 16, then 12 is the value that he has given you. It belongs to him. He can put his name to it. Anybody who adds value to whatever you do in life belongs to you. Nobody can share that with you. And you can carry it to the grave. That's value. Because it takes courage of conviction to be able to add that value, because you have to take the initiative, you have to make decisions, you have to make decisions contrary to what your boss is saying sometimes. And you have to disobey orders sometimes to be able to be successful. So when you saw that mass film, it didn't start off with having a song. It started off with a whole lot of kids playing cricket with Sachin Mas, because they all wanted to grow up to be Sachin. And then when they get the Pepsi, one guy takes his mask off and he's Sachin. And none of the kids were told that they were Sachin, because Sachin was always with his mask. So if you see the reaction, those are the chokras on the basti, which we got hold of. They weren't actors. So if you see the reaction to Sachin, it was real. It's palpable. But the most important thing was that we decided that it needed a song because there was something missing in the film. And so the team decided that the best guy to sing the song would be Raghuveer Yadav. And Raghuveer Yadav is one of those actors which sits somewhere in Madhya Pradesh or something. So we didn't have the time. We had to deliver this film within the week. And I said, no, forget it. Don't go looking for Raghuveer Yadav. You'll not find him. We don't have the budget. And you just do it with somebody who sounds like Raghuveer Yadav. So a week later, shown the film, and it was perfect. You know, the guy sounded like Raghuveer Yadav. I mean, I said, wow, where did you find this guy? So he looked at me very sheepishly and said, he is Raghuveer Yadav. So they disobeyed a direct order, to the extent that I could have actually sacked a lot. Because I had told them specifically, don't bother. We don't have the money, we don't have the time. They disobeyed a direct order because they knew the value it would add. And I had a decision to make. Sack them or promote them. So I promoted them. Because the third thing about leadership is, you don't do a job, you own it. So if you can't own the job that you are doing, you're passing time. You're just passing time. Because there's no pride in it, there's no passion in it, there's no commitment, there's no danger, there's no predictability about not actually succeeding. If you cannot live on the adrenaline of not possibly succeeding, then you're not an adrenaline junkie. If you're not an adrenaline junkie, you cannot be an entrepreneur. You'll be a knocker all your life, and you'll be passing files. So if you ever want to be an entrepreneur, if you ever want to be the head of a ship, if you ever want to own a fleet of ships, if you can't be an Onassis, then you won't get a Jacqueline Kennedy. Forget about the money he makes. So at the end of the day, what you get hooked on to be a successful leader is not the fact that you succeed more often than you don't. What you get hooked on is the probability of not succeeding. Because that is what makes you an adrenaline junkie. That's what makes you jump out of planes with a parachute. That's what makes you do bungee jumping. That's what makes you do scuba diving. That's what makes you do horse riding. That's what makes you go to the mountains, because they give you humility. And let me tell you, in my entrepreneur school, it's compulsory for them to meet the origins of life, which is the ocean. It is compulsory. It is not a choice. They have to learn to dive into the womb of the ocean, because the ocean is the greatest teacher this earth will ever have. It teaches you humility. Whether you're on it, whether you're under it, it's the same experience. She's unpredictable, she's powerful, and she can be very gentle when you follow the rules. But you have to be always, always on your toes, because you never know when her mood changes. So the ocean becomes, for my business school, I don't know whether it's going to be a last breath. So the moment you overcome your fear and start looking around you, it opens up its treasures. So that's a life lesson. I think everybody should be introduced to the sea at some level or some stage or another, especially if you're phobic. Because she teaches you humility, she teaches you about treasures, she teaches you about discipline, and she teaches you about a vast storehouse of power which no nuclear bomb can ever match. And you can feel the power. It's not something that you see on a screen or sitting in a bunker. You can feel it because she's all around you. And you can feel the mood changing. You can see the tide pulling you. You can see the power of the tide. And it takes a lot of courage to not fight the tide, to go with it. Thank you.
Prahlad, don't go. I got a small memento to give to you. I would request Jervis is here. Jervis from Buoyancy. I know you're a big, big fan of Prahlad, and I would like to request you to give Prahlad a small token of appreciation from our end. And this small gift from Crossword. It's a book.
It's about the ocean.
Is it about the ocean? I mean, Shalini helped us get this crossword hampers. Is it about the ocean? It's some life lessons. Maybe you can write a book, and next time we'll keep that as one of the...
I think all the sailors in the room can write many more books on life lessons than anybody else who's around.
Thank you, Prahlad.